Up next, you'll see why Magnus Carlsen is the GOAT of chess. This game took place in the semifinals of the recently concluded 2025 Esports World Cup, the same tournament that, as we saw in the previous video, was ultimately won by Carlsen himself. This was a hard-fought semifinal, and truly, this game is one to sit back and enjoy to the fullest. Well then, without further ado, let's jump into the game. Magnus Carlsen has the white pieces, and Hikaru Nakamura the black ones. The game begins with d4, d5, c4, the Queen's Gambit, and now Nakamura surprises everyone by playing c5, the Austrian Defense against the Queen's Gambit. It's a kind of counter gambit. I remember studying this in the past, and watching many games where Mamedyarov played it. In any case, I also found a game between Carlsen and Nakamura playing this exact line from 2023, which ended in a draw. So, when I say this perhaps surprised the world, I meant the attendees and spectators around the globe, but not Carlsen. As I told you, he had already faced this before. Okay, the game continues with c takes d5, queen takes d5. Now it's not possible to play knight to c3 because black would play queen takes d4, winning a pawn, right? That's why Carlsen prefers to play e3, protecting the pawn. This looks passive, but it's still a decent option. e6, knight c3. Now finally, attacking the queen. Queen d8, knight f3, knight f6, e4. White takes advantage of gaining space in the center of the board. A quick note, don't forget to support this video with a like and a comment. That helps the channel a lot, since the algorithm will then recommend these videos to more and more people. Thanks for your support. Alright, the game continues with c takes d4, knight takes d4, e5 attacking the knight. Also, with this, Nakamura opens up the game for his bishop pair. Bishop b5 check. This is to prevent an early queen exchange on d1, which would have happened if the knight had been removed immediately. Bishop d7. Bishop takes d7 check. Queen takes d7. Knight c2. Queen takes d1 check. King takes d1. This move is forced since the knight on c3 protects the pawn on e4. Knight c6. King e2. The king must be centralized, allowing the rook on h-file to move to d1. In short, this enables the early connection of both rooks, especially since the bishop on c1 will soon be developed. Knight b4, attacking the knight on c2. Knight e3, rook c8, rook d1, bishop c5, knight f5, attacking the g7 pawn. g6, attacking the knight. Bishop g5. Excellent move. Carlsen sacrifices his knight on f5 to go after the opponent's knight on f6. His game lies in decisively controlling the dark squares around black's position. That's why Nakamura plays here rook c6, protecting the knight instead of capturing on f5. It would be a strategic mistake for black to play something like g takes f5, due to bishop takes f6, rook g8, and e takes f5. Now the e5 pawn could fall, and white's positional advantage would be decisive. Okay, let's get back to the game. As I said, rook c6 was played by Nakamura. Carlsen knight d6 check. A second good move, and with this white begins to take control of the game. With it, the Norwegian creates a disruption between the rook on c6 and the knight on f6. Bishop takes d6, breaking the horse's legs. It's the only decent move Hikaru had available. Bishop takes f6, attacking the rook. Castle. Rook ac1. Here you see the concept I mentioned a few minutes ago. The white bishop fully controls the dark squares around black's castled position. White's advantage is already noticeable. The game continues with rook fc8, g4, knight a6, rook d5. White tries to activate all their pieces. Knight b4, rook d2, bishop f8, g5, bishop g7, bishop e7, attacking the black's donkey. Bishop f8. Nakamura insists on the proposed bishop exchange, which is impossible to keep refusing. The game continues with bishop takes f8, King takes f8. Rook cd1. Knight a6. Knight b5. Threatening knight takes a7, with a fork on both rooks. Rook b6. Knight takes a7, attacking the rook. And now an unexpected move. Rook e8. What a horrible move. Nakamura was playing well, but this move ruins everything. It's an absolutely losing move. Here, the move that should have been played was rook a8. Good move, forcing white to play rook d8 check. And now black would continue fighting in the game after rook takes d8. Rook takes d8 check. King g7. Rook d2 and knight c5. White would have an extra pawn, but it would be very difficult for them to convert that additional pawn into an advantage. Black would be fine. Let's return to the game. As I mentioned, rook e8 was played by Nakamura. A huge mistake. Carlsen rook c1. Another good move by white. Carlsen controls the open c and d files, which gives the knight a retreat square. I'm referring to the c8 square. Knight b8. Knight c8, attacking the rook. Rook c6. Rook takes c6. Knight takes c6. Knight b6. Knight d for check. King e3. King g7. Knight d7. Knight e6. Black leaves the e5 pawn hanging. h4. Carlsen could have captured the e5 pawn, but he prefers not to give anything away to the American. So he defends his g5 pawn instead. Knight f4. King f3. h6. A mistake that gives white the opportunity to capture on h6, but white plays knight takes e5, missing the chance to continue much better in the game. White would have maintained a great advantage with g takes h6 check. King takes h6. Knight takes e5. Rook takes e5. King takes f4. Rook h5. King g3. And as I said, white's advantage would be overwhelming. Okay, let's get back to our game. As I said, knight takes e5 was played by Carlsen. Nakamura, h takes g5. H takes g5. Knight e6. King e3. Rook h8. In case of knight takes g5, then f4, and white would be pushing forward. Back to the real game. As I mentioned, rook h8 was played by Nakamura. Carlsen f4. Rook h4. Knight f3. Carlsen reacted to this move as if he had made a blunder, and it was probably the move he had planned if black gave a check. So his reaction was perhaps because the f4 pawn could fall. Rook g4. In truth, black doesn't have good moves available. Note that if Nakamura had played something else like rook takes f4, this is met by knight d4. Terrific move. Rook g4. Knight takes e6 check. F takes e6, and rook d7 check, followed by rook takes b7, and white would win decisively, as white's pawns on the queen side would have no opposition and could then run freely toward promotion squares. Let's return to the real game. As I said, rook g4 was played by Nakamura. Carlsen rook d7. Rook takes f4. Rook takes b7. White now has two connected pass pawns. This is already a piece of cake for the Norwegian. The battle continues with rook g4. Rook takes f7 check. What a trick from the Viking. King takes f7. Knight e5 check. A fork. King e7. Knight takes g4. Knight takes g5. Pawn to a4, and faced with this, Hikaru Nakamura resigns the game, as white's passed pawns on the queen side will decide the match. What a game by Magnus Carlsen. He has defeated a super grandmaster like Hikaru Nakamura in a categorical and convincing manner, all through a positional understanding that's simply out of this world. With this game, and by winning the title in this tournament, the Norwegian has once again shown why he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. What did you think of the game? Feel free to share your thoughts down below in the comments. I hope you enjoyed both the game and my analysis. Don't forget to support this video with a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.